Unnecessary intro song to totally waste your time. All right, so you want to talk about music? It's one of the most useless conversations you can ever get into. Any conversation about art. Art is so subjective, and having opinions about art is a personal thing. Expressing opinions about art is like, okay, what is there to be gained from expressing an opinion about a band or some art or whatever? When people like something, they like something. If they don't, they don't. And who are you to complain about something that somebody else likes? You know, it's, it's talking about Rick Beato the other day and how he just basically, that wasn't even really a conversation about music, though. That was a conversation about Rick Beato being a little bitch, not pushing back because a Negro was talking. The Negro was talking and Rick Beato didn't say anything. Even though you knew what he thought, I knew what he thought because I watched his chat all the time. I just watched it, which is why I'm making another recording about music. Today he interviewed a band I'd never heard of before. I actually must have heard of them because when I went back to look at some videos, whenever he has somebody on that I don't know, you go search the artist's name, watch a couple videos, and then go back and watch the conversation so that you know what they're talking about. But this band was called Domi and J.D. Beck, a French lady and a young American guy. They're a duo, a jazz duo. And I have to say that I listened to a bunch of the stuff and I don't get it. I don't like it. I like it the way that I like ice cream. I have preferences in ice cream. All music is good. Mostly all music is good. Mostly all ice cream is good. You can say you hate some ice cream and you go, you don't really hate it. I hate strawberry ice cream. No, you just prefer chocolate. How can you hate strawberry ice cream? People, I hate pineapple on pizza. Okay, pineapple on pizza's maybe not the greatest, but do you hate it? Or do you just pick it off? It's not a big deal, That's the way I feel about these things. I come from, my background is this. I've been making music my whole life. My parents weren't really musical. My dad sang. He was roommates with one of the Letterman. Do you know who that is? And there's a few recordings hanging around the house of him singing, doing some karaoke recording type things before karaoke of him singing. He's a good singer. The Letterman once invited him on stage, I guess, to sing with them. My step-grandparents were in barbershop quartets. We always had a piano or a home organ. It started out to be a Kimball piano and then a Thomas Glow, Magic Glow or something, home organ where the keys would light up and they showed you the letters. And I'd spend hours on that thing, just making up songs, not trying to learn other people's songs. I never was really interested. I don't think I ever, in the pianos that were in the houses, my dad had a piano in his house, blah, blah, blah. I never sat around and tried to learn other people's songs. It just wasn't interesting for me. What was interesting is just playing around with the notes. Oh, here's a chord. Oh, here's this. Oh, that sounds kind of cool. Oh, look what I can do here. Look, When I was on my Mormon mission, I would, Mormon missionaries are supposed to walk around in two and two, and oftentimes we'd just go to the Mormon chapel and we'd separate. I'd go in to find the piano and I'd just start dinking around on the piano, making shit up, probably annoying my companion who was off in the building somewhere else doing else, probably masturbating or some shit. I don't know. Young guys, teenagers in their late teens, peak sexual activity, and you put them on a mission. I don't know how that works out, but so yeah. And I bought My first keyboard is a Juno 106. It's still over there. I bought that when I was 16 years old, and a Tascam Porta 1. It's right there, and a Roland TR-707, which is still right next to it. I've got them all, and I put them out. I've had hundreds of pieces of gear over the years. I was a partner in a recording studio. I had my own recording studio. I got rid of most of my old gear, and I just kept kind of some of the original things. But I've always just been about making sounds. There's nothing more fun than putting on some headphones and twiddling around. It's just playing. That's why they call it playing music. You're playing. That's really what you're doing. You're just playing. And I've always loved that. What's not to love about playing music? But playing music and writing a song, to me, are very different. I used to play music. I'd make a drum beat, then you put a bass on top of it, and then you make a section here. And once sequencers came along, and I had an ASR 10, which was a very popular hip-hop producing keyboard back in the 90s. Just a keyboard sampler. You could make loops. You'd make a section, and you just build it up. You find a bass line, then you find what goes with that, and then you find something that goes with that. You could spend an hour just on a loop, on a section, on an 8-bar loop or a 4-bar loop, until it's just like, that sounds cool, and you jam out for a long time. No training. I didn't have any training, but you could just play around, and you'd find the notes that work with it and find the notes that don't work with it. You avoid the ones that don't work. You have the ones that do work. And then suddenly you're jamming with yourself. And it's fun. You're playing. But you're not really writing a song, in my opinion. You're producing music. That's for sure. But who's it for? Why? What are you doing when you're doing that? It's kind of self-satisfaction. It's an enjoyable activity. I guess some people go on a run or you go on a walk. That's what I would do. For many, many years, I did that. It wasn't until, what would happen is you write a track, and then you'd find this section that you made, and then you could just I'd have a sequencer, and I would have built like 10 different sections using a bunch of different instruments that I sampled or loaded in. And then you'd start chaining them together in different orders. And you go, oh, that section sounds really cool after this section. This section is a slow section, and this one is a loud section. And you just then you start mix and matching your mishmash of music, And you go, that sounds cool. That sounds great. Oh, that's cool. Then you put this after that. Oh, I want a break. This part doesn't sound good where it goes here. Oh, I'll take out a measure, just put a drum fill there, give somebody a break. And then suddenly you're a composer, right? You're composing sections of music, put them together, unexpected things, and largely you don't need to know anything to do it. You're just pushing buttons, playing keys, using your ears, and seeing what works and what doesn't work. It's delightful. It's fun. I'm not complaining about that at all. And sometimes I'd get a track done, and it'd have this great, wonderful it'd be dancey or whatever it was. And then I'd go, maybe this needs vocals over it. And then I'd start the laborious task of writing lyrics to go over this track that I already wrote. And then that could be tedious. What does it go? How does the chorus go? Because you got all these riffs and different motifs going on underneath, and then where do you find the pocket for the lyric, and what does the lyric even say? What is the song about? And it was tedious. Years go by, and it wasn't until about a decade ago that I started writing lyrics first. I'd always written poems and stuff like that, and sometimes they'd become lyrics later, but it was always laborious trying to fit lyrics on top of something else that already had a melody, a melodic bass line, or there was already some kind of melody. So I decided, well, let me just start playing guitar. I'm going to start writing music top down. Before I was doing it bottom up. You start with the music, the drums, the bass, and you start building the soundscape on top of things, on top of a drum beat, on top of a groove or something. But then I started writing lyrics and melody first. I thought, well, you can actually just start singing. If you have a guitar or ukulele or piano, you can, or even without one, when you're driving down the street, you can sing a song. I thought, well, let's start that way. Let's start with a melody. Let's start with a lyric and a melody. And what I found is that's a way easier way to write a song. And to me, a better way to write a song. I've been a consumer of music my whole life. Listening to songs, a lot of songs make you cry. Tears for Fears, Sade. How can you not like Sade? Michael Jackson. George Jones, Patsy Cline. Songs. Anyway, you remember the 90s? Let's get back. I'm going to jump around a little bit here, but I want to get back to my complaint about JD, this Dami and JD Beck kid. And it kind of goes for, what's that new band? Angine de Poitrain, the French duo from Canada that dress in polka dots that took the internet by storm a couple months ago. For doing wacky, weird, experimental shit that is interesting and in some parts for them very energetic and fun. But again, I look at these young kids, especially with Domi and JD Beck, and this is kind of not going to make sense if you don't know who they are, so maybe take a break and go listen to a little bit of it, but it's jazz, okay? And I listened to it before I watched the interview because I didn't know who they were. I listened to 5 different tracks, and I'm just going, what? What is this for? Why? It's fusion jazz. And I never really liked fusion jazz. I tried when I was young. There were bands that I loved. And then I tried to be this musician guy. I'm a composer, so I need to like Miles Davis, right? So I bought some Miles. A drummer in my band said, you should listen to Pat Metheny. I listened to Pat Metheny. I hated it. I chewed him out. I said, what the fuck are you recommending this shit for? I hate this. And I hated a lot of the jazz. I'm going, I don't get it. Boom, boom, boom. It's like, why? Okay, I get it. You're having fun. Do I need to watch you having fun? I mean, I guess it's fun watching somebody on a trampoline doing interpretive dancing and just kind of wacky, moving their body, weird. But I'm like going, why? You're having more fun than I am. Here, I can tell you, you are having more fun. I know that fun. I've done that on my keyboard. But why do I have to listen to it? But that's kind of, and what this happened with this JD kid and this dummy lady is they're doing a lot of, I start watching the interview and after I watch the music, because I'm going, I don't feel anything. And here's my rule. Music or art. Let's go with music though. Let's just talk about music right now. I feel like music should, in my opinion, move these 3 things, or at least one of these things. It should move your ass, your heart, or your mind. If you can do 2 of those things, you're killing it. If you can do all 3, you're really killing it. But at least do one. At least do one well. I prefer, my 2 favorites are ass and heart. Make me cry or make me dance. If you're just going to get intellectual on me, you're going to probably bore me. Well, that's where jazz is. It's intellectual. You're not moving your ass to jazz. It's like, I can't dance to this shit. You know, you just got to, even when you're tapping and the musicians are trying to change the time signature, so even if you do get a rhythm, 2 seconds later it's off. It's like they're saying, fuck you. This ain't for you. Stop tapping your toe. Listen. Pay attention. Count with us. Do your homework. This is a math problem. Yeah, but that's what I was getting from these kids. You know, I'm getting it. I'm going, okay, you're playing the drums. You're definitely hitting the snare a lot. Your kick foot is going. I'm trying to pick out a repeating rhythm in there. I'm not finding the repetition. I feel like you're just you know. Okay, great. That's fun. It's fun to watch you doing that. You're playing fast, and this woman is playing with you, and it sounds like every once in a while you lock together, and you definitely stop at the same time. So I know you both know where you are in the song, but I'm not finding a tremendous relationship between what you're playing and what she's playing. It feels like you just picked out, it feels like you did what I did many times back in the day, which is make random sounds, then find what goes with I'm going to put my hand down randomly, play a random pattern of notes, record it, and then build on that randomness with notes that sound good with it. And then you chain it to the next random set of notes, and then the next random set of notes, and it just starts going randomly, and it all sounds good because you made each section separately, and you built each thing, and some of them are complicated. There's arpeggios, there's this, and there's strange dissonance and crazy changes that you don't expect. But it sounds random. It doesn't sound like, the intention seems to be to impress musicians. And I guess that's fine. Once I listened to their interview, it kind of sounded like that. They kept dropping names of other artists. Oh, we love this artist. Oh, we love this filmmaker. Oh, we love this, and we love this. We love this. It's just like, art made because of art doesn't really move me. It never really has. Art made to impress musicians. You know, you watch Rick Beato moving his head around. He's not even getting a rhythm. His foot's going weird, and maybe he's counting a rhythm. Look, it could be that I'm just totally stupid, and I don't hear the rhythms they hear. But they brag about how they're hard. They even talk about how fans complain that they can't dance to their... You can't, because there's nothing... You're not repeating anything. I'd have to listen to this song 15 times before I could repeat it. And maybe that's fun. I don't know. It's not that fun for me. I don't hate it. I can listen to it. It's like I feel that way about Radiohead, too. It's like I'll listen to it. I'll put my headphones on. Not their hits notwithstanding, but, you know, their experimental stuff. It's like, okay, I put my headphones on. I listen to it. I listen to it one time, and then I never return. I never go back to it. I go, I heard it. Because it didn't touch me. It was like going on a ride, and nothing wrong with going on a ride. Disneyland can be fun, a roller coaster ride. But you go on the roller coaster ride once a year or once every 10 years. You go, oh, that was fun. You don't wake up in the morning and go, God, I wish I had a roller coaster. Fuck. I need to get my roller coaster hit. That's not what it is for me. I mean, for me, I look at these kids and I go, Okay, you're having fun, but what are you doing? Where, why are you doing this? It's fun, okay, but are you really expressing something or are you just completing something? What are you saying? And I'm not finding anything there. Even when they talk about it, I feel like they're saying, well, this musician and that musician. I'm going, okay, but what were they doing? They're just noodling around too. And they're talking about how complicated and hard it was for the musicians and how they made it in Ableton. And then they played an Ableton recording. I thought, that sounds great. And they said, and then we went and redid it with all live musicians. And I go, okay, that sounds good too. But is this really about enslaving musicians and making them play the things that you wanted them to play? Because you could have done it with just your computer, but you got all these musicians. And what's that for? Did it make the notes are still the same notes? The progressions are still the same progressions. But now you've added a million layers on it. And I guess I'm impressed by it. It's funny, they even called themselves maximalists. And I remember when I did that for years on the top of my blog and still in my old, if you go back in the Wayback Machine, my old blog on the front page, one of the things, a link was called Minimalism is for Quitters. And that was my mantra. And I'm looking back and I'm looking at them and I'm realizing now that I've switched and I'm writing songs from the top down. In other words, starting with the lyric and the melody. And then where does that lyric and melody come from? And why? Why that lyric? Why that melody? Why this chord? Why this accompaniment? Why are you doing this? The question I always ask when I'm making a song or listening to a song, especially with somebody singing, but even if they're not, my question is, what are you crying about? Because that's what songs are. I know I sound repetitive. I say this all the time, but what are you crying about? Are you happy crying? Are you angry crying? Are you afraid crying? Are you mournfully? Is there loss? Is there love? Are you in love crying? Happy crying? What are you crying about? That's singing. What are you putting on the line? What are you doing for somebody else? Why are you singing in a way that somebody else should hear it? And why should they sing with you? Those kinds of questions is what I think when I'm making a song. But when I watch Rick Beato and I watch these musicians, I get the feeling, because none of these guys, it seems like they're not interested in lyric or melody, and that's fine. All the classical composers, they weren't writing lyrics and they weren't whatever. And you can say what you want to about classical music. I like hearing it in a certain context. It makes great accompaniment for a film, or sometimes when you're just laying in bed with your headphones. I'm not trying to slight any of the great composers or anything like that, but a lot of times when I hear it, what I hear is a guy dicking around, discovering things and going, oh, that sounds cool. Oh, that sounds cool. What will happen if I do this? Do you see the difference between that and going, I need to get something off my chest. I need to tell you about something. There's this guy that's come up in my feed recently called John Breaks Bad News. And he just calls people and people pay him $10 or whatever to say mean things to people over the phone. It's funny. But it relates here, because what is the bad news? What are you doing? What are you singing? What are you saying in your song? What's the bad news? What's the good news? What's the news? What are you saying? And why are you saying it that way? And are you saying it for real? Do you really feel it? Or are you just fucking around? And if you're just fucking around, I guess that's fine. But you better move my ass or something. And I got nothing of that. But, when I go back to my younger days, a lot of what you do, and you don't know you're doing it, is you're doing it to be cool. You're being it to be aloof. You're doing it to be smarter. You're being obtuse. You just don't get it. You don't get it, idiot. You don't understand Warhol. You don't understand Dylan, you stupid idiot. That's for smart people. Lou Reed's for smart people. You ain't an intellectual, you retard. That's why you don't like it. And then you go and you end up trying to like things that you don't inherently like, and you start trying to cram it into your brain like, I gotta like this. I gotta like Miles Davis. I bought Kind of Blue. I'd put it on, but it's something you put on in the background to create a vibe, which is about you being cool and getting laid or something, or impressing people. Is it making you cry? Is it making you feel something? Are you changing your life? Is it motivating you to do something? Is Miles putting anything on the line? He's got a lot of opinions about what's cool and what isn't cool. He likes to be the boss. Those kids are talking about it. They seem to really love the fact that they had all these different musicians come in and play the hardest parts. We made really complicated parts. I get it. They even did a demonstration that kind of says exactly what I'm saying. They had a guitar player play a sequence of chords that to me wasn't even a really good chord progression. It just felt random and beep bop ba doo 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 da 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 wah wah bing bing, random haphazard. And they go, that's the chord progression. Then we go in and we just build parts over it. And then they played the part where the orchestra was doing that thing, and there's all these arpeggios going over it, make it complicated. It's the same chords, but now they've got complicated things outlining. They're just playing the same chords, the outlining them, making arpeggios, going up and down the keyboard, and it sounds really super complicated, but really it's the same chords. It's the same chords, but it sounds more and more complex, and it becomes more and more difficult to play because it's fun. It's hard to play things fast and across the keyboard. Moving your hand all the way from the bottom up to the top, a long arpeggio. You're hitting the same sequence of notes that are in the chord, but you practiced every day. And she talks about how she put 25,000 hours on. And by the way, I'm not trying to take anything away from that. I'm as impressed as anybody with somebody who practices a long time and they can play something fast and they're good at their instrument. They have good timing. That's impressive. I go, okay, cool. It's music. Now, why? Why? What are you saying? What are you saying to me? Look, there's an argument that I got into in the comments on that last Rick Beato thing. Some know-it-all musician came in and he said, because my premise is that musicians are curators and artists are curators. We're curators of things that already exist. God created sound. God created the phenomenon of vibrations and harmonies. And human beings have invented instruments, and we have discovered music. We discover music. Like you discover radio waves, you discover electricity. You discover water. You don't invent water. You can invent a glass in which to put water. You can invent a light bulb, but you didn't invent the electricity. And this guy was in here, no, humans, Western music is entirely a human invention. Chords and music and scales are human inventions. And I argued. I said, no, it's not. They're not. Chords exist, and you discover chords. You don't invent a chord. You discover a chord. Like you discover water, or you discover a mountain. You dig in the mountain, discover dirt in the mountain and the rocks. They're already there. The frequencies, the possibility, the phenomenon that it works is there, and you fiddle around until you find it. You go, it's bullshit, you fucking idiot. You're a dumbass, because musicians are like that. And he's like, "You're an idiot. Don't you know anything about the 12-tone scale?" And I go, "Yeah, I do." And you know that's called equal temperament. The 12 tones that make up most of Western music. That is what you call equal temperament. That's an invention. It's an invention. I go, no, well, maybe the equal temperament is an invention, but the invention is an approximation of what exists in nature, which are the frequencies. The frequencies and the harmonies and the resonance that exists in nature, you find it, and then the equal temperament was a manufacturing compromise so that people could make instruments and then they could play in tune. Mostly it had to do with the piano. How many keys are we going to put on this? Because there's endless notes in the world. You know, a slow. The amount of frequencies in that slide is way more than the 88 on my range is not very great, but there's a million microtones between the keys that are within that slide. If you were to, separate them out, all those tones are there. I didn't invent that slide just now. I said it, but the mathematics and the physics to even vibrate I didn't invent my vocal cords. I didn't invent my body, even my ability. I didn't invent it. The muscles and the fact that I can do that. God did that. I can discover how to use my voice. I can discover my toes. I can discover my fingers. I can discover how it feels to put things on my wiener. Those are discoveries. You don't invent emotions or gratification. Those are discoveries. And the equal temperament, I'm probably getting boring, but look, if you're into music, you might like to hear this. Everybody else can just log off. It doesn't matter. But this is my theory, And I think a lot of people agree with me. There are some people that don't because they want to take credit. They want to think that they invented something that God invented. And I don't know why, but they do, But the 12 tones, the piano, the repeating 12 tones in the scale, Western music, that was a compromise that made it easy to manufacture pianos. Because really, and it had to be a compromise because they actually, you can listen to Jacob, what's his name? What's that kid's name with the funny hair? He does all the jazz stuff. He's the young white Bobby McFerrin. I can't remember his name. But Collier, is that his name? Jason, Josh, something. Jacob? Maybe that. Looks like he's part Asian. Smart kid. Gifted as fuck as far as being able to use his voice to harmonize. But I think he would agree with me. He's using the microtonal stuff because that compromise with the keys, it leaves a lot of people unsatisfied. Like, for example, here's how I can demonstrate that the equal temperament invention or compromise. I don't even want to call it an invention. It feels like just an agreement. Hey, if we all agree on this, then we can make instruments that are all in tune with each other. We can speed up the process of finding the notes that exist within nature. We can speed up the discovery process. For example, harmonies, when you take a choir, a bunch of people together, 3 or 4, 5, 10 people together, they can harmonize. If you don't have a piano, no instruments, no vibrating strings, just vocal cords, people, somebody can pick a note and everybody else can harmonize with it. Whether it matches a note on a piano or nothing or anything, it's the distances, it's the relationships between the notes that create the harmony, that create the pleasant feeling of harmony or the dissonance that maybe might not be so pleasant. Finding those notes, locking in on those. Now, a choir, if they want to, and this is kind of proof, they call it just intonation. That's what you call the phenomenon of harmonizing with other people without the constraints of frets or piano keys or things locked into a certain tone, equal temperament. It's just called just intonation. So two people can do, they can slide up a note and they can remain in harmony the whole time. You can do that with a pitch bend on a guitar too. That's just intonation. That's deviating away from the equal temperament thing. Again, it's nature, it's God. You discover those notes. You don't invent them. Western music wasn't invented. A lot of it is based on equal temperament because that was the compromise. But that's not the whole picture. That was a compromise. That's a step away from the enormity and the discovery of music. It's not a step towards it. It's not a thing where you go, you really did something there, Charlie. What's his name? I can't remember the guy's name that came up with the equal temperament thing. Hold on. All right, Arnold Schoenberg is who I was thinking about, but in asking Grok, there's a lot of people some Chinese guy and then some Italian guy. There's a lot of people that came up with the 12-tone equal temperament because it's just practical. It's a practical way to make instruments that would create harmonies easily for basically people who couldn't sing the harmonies or people who didn't want to. That was the whole point. Anyway, what am I saying? So here's this discovery. We discover the magic of music. We find harmonies. This guy, by the way, I want to go back to this douchebag in the comments who just kept insisting that I was a dumb fuck. And I'm going, yes, I am a dumb fuck, but I'm not wrong about this. That's the problem. Yes, I'm a dumb fuck. Granted. But humans did not invent harmony. They discovered harmony. You don't invent harmony. You discover it. I'm sticking to that. There's no way around it. I tried to talk myself into it. I tried to talk, well, maybe with equal, maybe if you build a chord, no, you're discovering it. You're just putting your fingers down to find frequencies, and then the frequencies combine, and then nature provides you with this. This is what happens when you do that. It's like saying you don't invent fire. Rubbing sticks together can cause fire, but you didn't invent the fire. You discovered it. Anyway, back to songwriting and what I think, my personal opinion for music. What does it for me, what really moves me, and I think I can tell. Having made music for a long time, I feel like I can tell how and why somebody made something. I ask the question why, but I usually have an answer in my head. I go, okay, you guys, Engine de Poitrain or whatever, you are making songs. It's fun. You're having fun. You're showing off your skills. That's great. I like all that stuff too. At least for those guys, I can see a why. Well, because we want to dance and we want to have a raucous thing. Even though they do weird rhythms, there's still this thing where you want to move your body. It does move you. It moves your body. It moves your heart rate too. It kind of moves your heart. Your heart changes. Your blood pressure goes up. There's energy behind it. But when I go over to Dami and JD and Coltrane, for me, maybe my blood pressure goes up, but it's more like, get me out of here. What the fuck, dude? Why are you squealing around like that? You're making me nervous. I would like to just relax, but you're there cycling through the circle of fifths as fast as you fucking possibly can. For what reason? I don't know. I guess the same reason why people run on treadmills as fast as they fucking can, to prove that they can do it. It's like sports, though. At a certain point, these guys that are noodlers, the musicians and the It's like they're involved in a sport where they're trying to impress the other musicians or compete with other musicians. And I don't think that they're really taking the listener into consideration. Of course, you could blast that argument out of the water because there's a lot of people that don't play that enjoy listening to Steve Vai or any number of the noodler guitarists that just playing as fast as possible. There's places to use fast arpeggios and complicated things because sometimes if you have something to say, you need the energy to increase. You're going somewhere. I just want to know what the story is. And when I listen to a story of jazz, it's interpretive dance. It's some guy whack around up there. He's doing something that if everybody else had to learn it, it'd be like, okay, we're impressed. You did the wacky thing, a wacky improv, and then you forced everybody else to learning the wacky improv thing, and then they all do the wacky improv thing at the same time, and then it shows that human beings can do this, they can memorize things, and they can do things together. But why the wacky improv thing to begin with? Why the obtuse, silly, hard to understand wackiness? You know, I'm bending like I'm weird. Oh, I'm sad. I'm surprised. Ooh. You know, like free association poetry. It can be interesting, I guess, sometimes, but also incredibly annoying. Like when I was going through my jazz phase and listening to Miles and Coltrane and Mingus and all the fucking, the whole list, going through and trying as hard as I could to be moved, to find what it was that other people were finding. I ended up gravitating towards Mel Torme and Chet Baker because they were actually singing. And they were singing tender things. One Morning in May. Chet Baker's sad, slow. I gravitated to that. I was like, oh, I can get with this. Or some 90s jazz hip-hop combo where they took something and looped it so it was danceable and you could hear the same riff over and over again. Or maybe some of the Miles Davis tunes. But even then, I'm just like, okay, yeah, I listened to it once. I don't need to hear it 20 times. Because the why isn't there. The story isn't there. Like when these kids were talking about the films that they saw and all the music they listened to, it's like, okay, you're influenced by that. But how come you haven't told me about how your heart got broken or how you're on a mission to save humanity? Or where's the story? Where's the arc? Where it sounds good because it's going to sound good. If you take enough time and record enough instruments and you make sure the harmonies work, it's going to sound interesting. But, if you're driving on a road with somebody, they're taking weird turns, and there's no rhyme or reason to something, it makes you nervous. You start going, do you know where we're going? Where are we going? Where are you taking me? Could you just tell me where you're taking me? Can I have some kind of clue? Just fucking enjoy the ride. Yeah, I don't want to. You're driving over bumps and you're turning the steering wheel too hard. And I just chipped my tooth on your fucking rear view mirror. I'm not enjoying the way this is not fun for me. It's fun for you. You enjoy making my body fly all over your fucking car. You enjoy pumping the brakes and watching my head fly forward. You fucking asshole. Your purpose seems to be to bother me. And it's working. Now, I'm being dramatic. Obviously, I'm not bothered by Dami and her friend, Mr. Littlebeck. They seem like sweet, fun, nice people. But they also seem like people who really want to impress their peers with how fast they can play and how many complicated things they can play that will be hard for you to play if you want to join in. That seems like it might be impressive. But watch this. Okay, now I want you to sing that back to me. Do it. Sing it back. Did you get it? Come on, sing it back. Just sing it back. What's your problem? It's music. You know, you could go back and sample that, rewind it, and at some point, if you wanted to, you could lip sync that little bit of nonsense that I just farted out. You could do that, and it would be impressive. I would be impressed, but I would also be like, man, you could have taken that time to write a pretty melody that would reach in and touch somebody's heart, or grab their wiener, or pull their butt, or knock them on the head and help them figure something out. Make sense of something that they've been struggling with. Make sense of something you've been struggling with. Now, I get it. Not all music needs to be that. But in my opinion, if you start out with a purpose, you're not wasting time, And here's the worst part about that stuff is, and I know that I'm guilty of this back in my past, being cooler than you. I'm cooler than you. I'm cool. You're not cool. You don't get it. You don't get it. You just don't understand it, man. You're fucking dumb. You're late to the game. It's that cool factor that a lot of these people are going after. And it's kind of being cool is actually being above it all. It's being contemptuous of people. It's trying to say, I'm better than you. I don't like you. Your ways are dumb. I'm going to do the weird thing that you don't understand. You don't get it. Retard. So yeah, that's not, it's not a virtue. Being cool is not a virtue. Being obtuse isn't a virtue. Trying to confuse people, it's not a virtue. Being subversive, not a virtue. Trying to convince somebody that confusion and beauty are the same thing. That's not a virtue. I think that there's objective beauty. And I don't find that strange, crazy jazz to be objectively beautiful. I find it to be, a lot of times, chaotic. I don't know what the fuck it is. Self-serving? Narcissistic? Even? I mean, me making this recording is narcissistic too. Hey, listen to me. Listen to my opinion. I'm smart. I got good opinions. I'll set you straight. There's that. I get that, but it's when you're trying to make people feel badly about themselves. You don't play as good as I do. You don't play as fast as I do. You don't understand. You don't understand these random harmonies. You don't understand that I'm a genius for clipping. And I used to do this back in the old days. Some of my first songs were made by opening books, putting my finger down, outlining the lines, basic clipping. I know Bowie did it. All the old songwriters, just snippets. And there's your lyrics, random selections of words. And then you can apply meaning to them. And if you put some music behind it and a beat, it can still be even satisfying. But for me, I'm not going to give credit to a person who does that like I would give credit to somebody who writes a heartfelt lyric, a tender moment, an embarrassing moment, something scary to write, about their actual heart, their actual feelings. something that means something, some vulnerability. I don't see the vulnerability in jazz. It's all posturing, you know? I don't know. Everybody's snoring now. There's nobody listening anymore. Again, like I said, you can talk forever. Here's the funny thing. Like I told you, I've mentioned it 1,000 times about the game that I invented called Ping Song, right? And when I do that, the real problem about talking about music when you make music like me is that the whole thing about glass houses has never been more true than that. I mean, anybody that wants to can come in and go, oh yeah, Merkley, your opinions about music, they mean squat. Oh, I've heard your stupid songs. You've put at least 10 of them on the ends of these recordings and half of them suck balls. You got lucky a couple of times and they're okay. You know, there's definitely a glass houses element about that. But regardless, it doesn't matter. I've still written probably thousands of songs by now. I don't know if I've hit 2,000 yet. Thousands would be more than 2,000, right? Maybe I'm up to 2,000. I probably am. I know I am, actually, because I've written at least 1,000 ping songs. And ping songs are this game that I invented where you write a song one line at a time, melody and lyric. Player one writes the first lyric and the melody. I'm writing the first line. There you go. You send it to somebody else and they go, and I'm writing the second. Chain those together. You sing them both together. A song's off to the races. You keep adding them, ping-ponging it back and forth, ping song, until the song is done. Well, there's an interesting thing about this. You know, when I've been doing this, I did this little experiment for about a week where I would go randomly pick a song out of my catalog to put at the end of these recordings. And I got lucky for the first 3 spins where I found songs that were, some of them were actually, I felt like they were pretty good, and other ones I thought were, oh, this is not too embarrassing. But then I found some really embarrassing ones, you know, some ones that I really just hated. And I didn't want to share those, so I didn't. And I found that the reason why those ones were so embarrassing is because with Ping Song, right, you start with a lyric, the next person has to understand it and interpret it, and then it goes down. With the 2 players, there's this constant, you're already working so that 2 brains have to comprehend something, which immediately already expands it so that if 2 people can understand what a song's about, then the chances that other people will understand it increase, you know? But when I land on songs, like back in 2022, I write songs every morning from my dreams, you know, whatever I was dreaming. But I went through this phase in 2022 where I was convinced that if you just say what happened in the dream, you'd get a good song. I was convinced that that was true. Now, I think that works for the first line of a song if you're working with somebody else, because then they have to go, what does that mean? How do I make that make sense? And then you go back and forth, and then 2 people have to make that line make sense. But when you're by yourself and you just say what happened in your dream, hello, shitty song alert. At least that's what happened to me. I was finding all these songs, I was going, what the fuck? These lyrics are garbage. They don't express any kind of feeling. They totally 100% rely on the interpretation of the viewer. But why do they have to sit there and interpret? Since then, I've moved on. And now when I still write from my dreams, but now I focus on, instead of every detail from the dream, I go, what is the feeling of the dream? What is the emotion of the dream? For example, last night I dreamt that I was in Minneapolis, and I was invited to a compound owned by Prince, like Paisley Park or something, but it was old and dilapidated. And I've been there a number of times in my dream, by the way. And I was like, here I am back at Prince's place. And Prince was fat in this dream, not fat, but he thickened out. And he was a totally good host. Everybody was taking advantage of his place and talking to him. And I felt like, I've overstayed my welcome. He was a good host. Anyway, Other people were there. Friends of mine were calling me to try to get into Prince's house. And I was like, I don't feel comfortable doing this. I already feel like I'm overstaying. He's being more than generous, entertaining us, and blah blah blah. But when I got up, maybe 2 years ago, I might have just written exactly the events. I was doing this. I was sitting on the shitty sofa, and, or whatever, trying to tell a story. You know, those were bad. Now, I wrote a song this morning called "Nice of You to Have Me Over." And then the song's just about that. There's a few little visual details, but that was the dream about it. It was nice of you to host me. I feel like I've overstayed my welcome. And that's the core of the song. And your average person can go, I can relate with this song. There's been lots of times where somebody had me over to dinner and how wonderful it was, and you feel like you're overstaying your welcome, and you just want to have gratitude for that kind of moment. But anyway, again, zoning in. What is the emotion? What is the lesson? What is the thing to be gained from this moment? Why are you crying? I don't know what I've accomplished with this little fucking recording other than talking shit about some nice young people who are having fun making music. I wish them the best. I wish Rick Beato, I wish all the musicians the best. If it gives you satisfaction to play your instrument as fast as you possibly can and to cycle through as many scales and chords and modes and everything as possible, if it gives you a thrill and it gives you a sense of accomplishment to be good at that, I wish you all the best. I think it's fantastic. I think you should keep doing that always, and I'll just keep writing my sad little songs. And I without sharing them, with a fucking smug attitude. Anyway, I'll leave you with this. I used to have 5 or 6 ping songs going at a time with various different people, but I got tired of having to remind them to take their turn, or I started to feel like I was harping on people. So now I write most of my songs by myself, but going back through the catalog, the ones that are good, honestly, the ones that I like are the ones that I wrote with somebody else. And it could be with my brother who never wrote a song. It could be with a random person who never wrote a song. Sometimes the very best ones are with people who have never written a song before, because they're not trying to impress people. They're not trying to do the beedly doodly bop 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 bop. They're not doing any of that shit. They just simply write a line that makes sense. One line, and I love it. I think the method is good. The quality of songs is far above. I mean, I'm telling you, the worst ping songs are better than most songs written by solo, independent people who just can't quite find out what to write about. They don't know. They're trying too hard. I don't know. But if any of you, I've started a couple of ping songs with listeners of this channel, and they have both pooped out after about 3 turns. No offense, no big deal. It's lame. You shouldn't do that. You should just finish it. Even if you're self-conscious about your voice or whatever, just see it through. Do a whole song. There's something magical about completing a song. And even if there's only one person that knows it besides you, there's something even magical about that. 2 people have a song memorized, only 2. They share that song. Once a song exists, it's amazing the magic of music, how it's hard to memorize. You couldn't do verbatim almost anything I said here, but if it was a song, you could sing it back to me. That's magical. And when you share that with 2 people, that can be amazing. Again, people talk shit about AI. These fucking people, you didn't write that song. But this is kind of what I'm trying to say. The why. The why. What I love about the AI is somebody with a why, a good why, can get on there and do it. And the why is so much more important. Sitting down and going doodly-doodly-doo, masturbating on the piano, that's an interesting why, but it sounds like that. But saying, I want to make a song about how it felt to be betrayed by somebody who I trusted and loved and with whom I was incredibly vulnerable. If you just say that to ChatGPT, here's what happened. I got my heart broke. Can I tell you? Can you write a song about it? Let me tell you what happened. I walked in on them and they did this and they said that and they lied about me and blah, blah, blah. Can you write a song? Even if ChatGPT spits out some lyrics that go along with that thing, it's the why that got off to the good start. You're going to have a better result because your why was clear, than all these other people that maybe, sure, they did it themselves. They recorded it themselves. They used old-fashioned gear. They recorded it in Elvis's thing. Who the fuck cares? Why? What the fuck are you crying about? Anyway, anybody wants to write a Pink song with me, just let me know, and I'll write one. I'll start one, and I would hope that you wouldn't quit halfway through because it's fun. The world doesn't need a single, even one more song. There is enough music already released out there to sustain your brain and anybody else's brain for the rest of their entire lives that they can listen to something different every day. There's enough. The world doesn't need any more songs. But for fuck's sake, it damn sure doesn't need any more unfinished songs. That's for sure. So start a Pink song and finish it. Now, there's a couple things I forgot to say. When I started going on about my minimalism is for quitters and the maximalist shit, I was trying to say that there was a reason for all my maximalism, and I would spend hundreds of hours on a drawing or a painting, because if people hated the subject matter, they could at least say, well, at least he worked hard on it. The work ethic was there, And I feel like that's the way that band is doing it. It's great. You got a lot of notes in there. You played them really fast. And I'm bored. But I'm impressed. I don't know how those two things will go together, but they do for some reason. And the other thing I was going to say that I started to say, but then I didn't, is about equal temperament, is that it's a compromise because if you take a choir and you get somebody, let's say you give somebody an A, or you don't even tell them what an A is. It doesn't matter. Let's say they know roughly what an A is, and they start and they sing an A. And then everybody else harmonizes with them, and they make a chord. You say, play the third, the fifth, and maybe the seventh or whatever. And let's just build a chord and let's get maybe the 11th in there for some little flavor. And this harmony comes about with these people harmonizing to the notes, to each other. The frequencies are blending. It sounds wonderful. Well, if you get a guy coming in there, or let's say, no, for this example, the first one does have to be doing an A from the piano. What happens is when they get all harmonic and they're singing in harmony, if the piano player plays that same chord, it sounds out. That's what equal temperament is. It's not right on. Guys with really good ears like Jacob Collier and other people, not me, I hear it a little bit on my ukulele. Like if I play a G chord, it sounds a little bit off and I have to bend my finger a little bit. I sing flat. I don't have perfect intonation by any stretch of the imagination, but for some reason I can hear it. And so, yeah, that's the other thing I wanted to say about discovering music instead of inventing it. You discover the natural properties, the natural vibrations. And in fact, a single note carries the overtones. It carries the third and the fifth. So even a single note actually has a chord in it. It's just dominated by the single note. And it changes once you get into negative or minors and stuff like that, or atonal harmonies. But even those have parallels. So, and you know what? To double down on this, since I've put everybody that doesn't care about music to sleep, and the only person that would be listening to this are people that are interested in music anyway, is that I almost doubt that we invent melodies. I mean, I know that you can. I know that those guys talked about how they wrote their whole album on sheet music. And the reasons, to me, were insane. They said, I didn't want to rely on my muscle memory, on my body. And I'm like thinking, so you're erasing the thing that I want to hear. What I want to hear from you or from any artist, I want to hear you. I want to hear your voice. I want to hear your arms. I want to hear your fingers. I want to hear you, the human being. You know, they wrote it note for note, like on sheet music. To avoid muscle memory, to avoid groove, for example. Why do we groove? I don't understand why somebody would do that, but that's what they did. That's their choice. They can do that if they want to. Anyway, I'm the most sidetracked thinker in the whole fucking world. I start telling one story and then I go off and I tell a different fucking story. Even just now, I'm doing that. Inventing melody. I don't know if we actually do it. I know that I poke around for notes. You know, sometimes when I start a song with a chord instead. But really, if I'm just singing, the melodies are kind of built into the words. And you hear a lot of musicians saying, I don't exactly know where the songs come from. And a lot of people get spiritual, or they get, and there's one way to do it. You can just go, you can put your fingers on a piano, you can find a melody that way. But then you're just kind of using the machine and you're finding the capability, and you can go, well, maybe that was just a random choice. And okay, are we giving credit to that? I guess we kind of have to technically say, yeah, we did, but that's built into the chord. And how can you patent and copyright natural phenomena? People do that. They're doing it with genes and stuff. And it blows my mind. I have objections to copyrighted music and stuff like that, because I just don't think, they say 7 notes and I go, okay, fine. But are you really going to give 7 notes in a row away to somebody and say, no, you own those 7 notes? I'm like, maybe you can do the 7 notes if they go with if they're combined with also an unusual chord, maybe that a chord that doesn't belong to, or lyrics and the melody together, but just the melody. I'm pulling a kind of like, no, fuck you. I've sung so many times just playing the ukulele or the piano where it just comes out of you. I don't know where they come from. I know that you hunt around for them. I know you move. I know that I'm physically manipulating my body. I know that I can raise and lower my voice. I didn't invent my voice. I didn't invent hardly any of the words that I use. Anyway, it's all trouble when you start losing your humility. When you start really, I understand that you have to take some credit. We have to be able to give credit to people for writing songs, for being brave and putting a bunch of things together. But I don't know, if you're not acknowledging the mystery and the magic, you're fucking up, Try it. Write a Pink song. Like I said earlier, just try it. And speaking of which, I flipped the dial to see if I could find a random song to do this, and I landed on a Pink song I wrote with Robin Coomer, who's a friend and a neighbor of mine. I've known her for 25 years almost. She's got quite a history in the music business, released a lot of albums under different names, and I think she's a really good singer. We wrote an album's worth of Ping songs that she released. She recorded with her talented boyfriend, Matt. And this is one of those songs. And rather than putting my version down, because I haven't even recorded a version of mine, I'll just put down her version that she released on her album. And it's on her YouTube. She made a video for it. It's a pretty good song. I think it's a Ping song. I wrote the first line, and there's another magical thing about working on a song with another person is they're putting in their point of view, and you're putting in yours. But I wrote the first line, and then at the end, I also wrote the line about fixing your hair. And it turns out that this ended up having a very personal meaning to Robin. And she said the whole song did, but she didn't say anything about it. We were writing it. She says, I felt like you were channeling an experience of mine. And who knows? Maybe we were channeling each other. That's kind of the magic. It kind of goes with that kind of thing. But hopefully I don't get a copyright strike. I don't know how she released it, if she released it through TuneCore or anything. But hopefully it stays up. And to be clear, I didn't only just write the first line and then the late line. It goes every other line. So I wrote at least half of the lines, and I think in this one she was going slow, so I even wrote more than that. Like I think I wrote the entire bridge. But yeah, a Ping song is ideally 50% one line after another. Ping pong. You understand ping pong, don't you? And I'll put my first turn at the end so you can hear what that sounds like. Thanks for listening.
I'm not here for amusement. I'm not here for a roller coaster ride. No carnival of your illusion. Gonna make it look pretty while you're wasting my time. When you burn it all down, who's gonna be your clown?
I'm not here for a roller coaster ride.